All right, y'all. We are live with the Flows4U podcast right here. You guys go live every Monday, so we are taking over your spot. But we're glad to have you guys in the studio. I know you guys just came from the ACL, Austin City Limits, so definitely want to hear about that. I've been offline for a minute, so I'm glad to jump back in. Actually, anybody who doesn't know, Jason was with me to help set up the very, very first studio, helped me to purchase the very, very first mics, helped me to purchase the very, very first headphones. Actually, one of the pairs is what Trey's rocking with right now. But anyway, want to jump right in. Talk to us about about your pod and how you guys got started, and then and what you guys have been doing, and kind of like the flow of your pod over the last. How long have you guys been doing it now?
4 years.
4 years. Let's go. Talk a little bit about that. I have a bunch of like specific questions about it, but in general, when somebody says, "Hey, like, oh, you're a pod, you guys have a pod together," so talk about that for a minute.
Well, the podcast first started 6 years ago, when my son was being born. Me and Derek recorded like 4 episodes or 5 episodes, and then I didn't do anything with it for 2 years. And then I was like, Derek, you want to do something? But by that point, Derek was already super famous and didn't want to do a podcast with me. So that's not true. But then I was looking. Then about that time, Trey started streaming on a daily basis. And I had met him at a conference, and he was beatboxing during a cypher. And I was like, oh, man, this guy's cool. And so he started doing the streams, and then I would join him playing Fortnite, and then he'd beatbox and I'd rap. And I was like, this is fun. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, you know what? We could probably finally start the podcast up, and I could use Trey as the guest. And I had just started I had gone to South by Southwest, and it had a great opportunity to launch the podcast. So I just launched it. And then I was like, well, I already have 6 episodes. Now I need somebody else to help me do this. Yeah. So I asked Trey, and we've been doing it ever since March 2019.
There we go.
So
Trey, what was his recruiting pitch like? How did he come in to loop you on in?
Before I answer that question,
here we
Jason
go.
always leaves out the part where we met up in 2012, where he was actually he had been performing too, but he was shuttling around at other artists at World Discipleship Summit, because at the end of the conference, like towards the end of the day, there was a whole just a hip hop session, but it was more like a performance. And so he was shuttling people around just from like places, point A to point B. Yeah. And we met up there because I had stayed afterwards, but he always leaves out that bit because he doesn't remember actually meeting me in 2012. So we re-met up in 2016 and we had lunch and stuff.
And where was that conference? That 2016 one?
2016 was at Reach. It was in
St. Louis.
St. Louis, yeah. So that was where we met up. But no, I think Jason and I would kind of like text back and forth and stuff, but then we kind of lost contact. And then I started streaming on Facebook, and I basically done, Fortnite and all kinds of other stuff that was popular at the time. And then he just hit me up and he wanted to do the podcast. So it basically was what it was.
There we go. And so I have a bunch of questions about podcast experience and all of that. So I know you and I talked offline about it, the idea of like how you go about getting guests.
Yeah.
And so have you talked about that publicly as far as how you've gone about that?
No, I haven't. I can talk about it.
All right.
Now, when I first started, I would just go through my Facebook friend list and just ask anybody I knew to be on the show. And then it was like, then we'd ask Trey's friends. And then we had a lot where it was just like some dude that just had a comic book or something, when we first started. And we just didn't know exactly where we were focusing on.
Yeah.
When we first started, it was we didn't really have guests at first, right? In the first season, it was just kind of me and Trey talking about whatever we wanted to.
Yeah.
And then as we morphed, I think we had I had from my friend Joe Garcia, who does the San Antonio Sports Podcast or Spurs Nation Podcast. And he kind of inspired us to we had him as a guest, and he was kind of like our first real guest. And we were like, we should really do something with this. And so we started doing it. Now, yeah, I flipped from different Facebook groups and things like that to find the right place to look for guests. And I would ask people, I'd go on my Facebook feed and be like, who wants to be on my podcast? And nobody would answer. Except for no one would. And then I would try one. There's like podcast guest or other Facebook groups that made it. Now, there was this one that we've been using lately called Need a Guest.
Yeah.
And that one's been bananas. I'll list something and we'll get booked for 3 months in a matter of 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And we'll get quality guests. Like our last, the person we had last week, I'm saying it wrong already, right? What is it? Do you remember?
Idarba.
Idarba was actually
Idiber.
She was actually an actress, and she actually was on like a bunch of TV shows and things like that. And so it's like, wow, we actually had somebody in this situation. But it took a lot, like trying to figure out juggling. And then, also, luckily for me, I've had a lot of amazing friends throughout the years. And so I've used every single one of my please help me. When I got speech from Arrested Development on the show, it was like I called his manager and I'm like, yo, I need you on the show, please. And he booked it. And I was like so excited about having him on the show.
I was too.
And Trey is so mad about this. You want me to tell the story?
Well, I guess the question, so this idea of great quality guests, and I know that you guys are certainly uplifting and, optimistic. If the guests were not quality, would you say that openly, or that would be more like kind of veiled and it wouldn't be as clear?
Yeah. So if I get somebody that goes, I want to be on the show, normally I look up all their stuff.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, this looks fine. There's been other times where they were like, sex toy sellers and things like that. And it was like, there's no way that I would do that to Trey.
Do that to me? That's not what our podcast is about.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, if they could pitch it where it's family friendly, then we'd be cool. And then there have been other times where they couldn't.
I'd love to see that.
But in that situation, it would be definitely veiled. It'd be like, oh, sorry, we're booked, or hey.
Okay, so if I was asking you like the worst podcast guest you ever had, and if I were to ask the question and ask you guys on the kind of three to say them at the same time, I'm not going to ask you to do that because
please don't.
There's a potential that they come back and watch whatever else y'all are doing. But would you think you guys would both say the same name?
We would.
Y'all would say the same name.
Yeah.
So then tell the experience of that without without revealing who they are. Of course, if you accidentally slip up, it's live and it's just out there.
It is what it is.
The interesting part about that person is they actually leveled up themselves, and so now they probably be a way better guest than they were then.
Yeah.
But yeah. So go for it.
No, I mean, yeah, I feel that we've been a stepping stool for a lot of people's shows and podcasts and the like because we get them out of their bubble. And a lot of people have told that at the very end of the show is like, wow, I had no idea this show was going to be like this. And it gets them loose and they don't have to be so like rigid with what their, topics are or whatever. And they get to have a fun time. And I feel like all that has projected them to where they need to be if they have not already been successful themselves. But I feel like we've been a good stepping stool.
But yeah, so in that situation, the one person had never done a podcast before.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to a guest, right? Like, there could be a guest that doesn't have anything interesting to say, which is hard. But if they're just not willing to say anything, that's the hardest part.
Right.
So if you ask them a question and they'll give you a one-sentence answer, or they don't answer you at all, that's where it's issue-filled. And that's the person that we're thinking about that happened. It was like we literally just had to talk to each other the whole hour-long episode to make it happen.
And I can even remember a time where we didn't have a show or we had to do one ourselves because it seemed like they were fake altogether. It was just like, let's see if I can get on the show.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, their connection was terrible. We didn't even have a show with them. And, I mean, it was it was just so bad, or they were trolling us. I'm not sure which one it was.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
a high chance they were
but
trolling
earlier
us.
you said that you kind of did some kind of a approval process where you check to see what they do.
And so that one is an interesting one because they looked fine. It looked like everything was good.
Yeah.
Now, it did look like because our beliefs compared to their beliefs were different, but we never tried to hate in that situation. We always try, if somebody believes something different than us, we're not that kind of podcast. We're not trying to gotcha. We're just there to uplift the thing that you do.
Yeah.
And so that person had a lot of opposite beliefs than us. But I thought, oh, it looks good. It looks fun. But yeah, when we're actually doing, because we do like a 15-minute mic check beforehand, and we're doing the mic check, and it's like, so what do you want to talk about? And then 3 minutes later, they answer the question.
Oh yeah, I'm not really sure what I want to talk about.
And it's just like super, like the thing. It was just like, are we being trolled? And even to this week, we had a guest that I'm pretty sure was the same idea. Was like it was because when I asked, they gave an answer like, "What could you do for a better year?" And they said, "Fart more." But all of their stuff looked right and it looked fine.
Yeah.
But then later, now I was looking at all the text got deleted and said because of Facebook something. I'm like, oh, normally we get lucky and it's not an issue. Now we've also had very quality guests, and then their connection is just terrible.
Yep.
And we've had like one of my best friends, somebody I loved. It just was not happening that day. And we had to just go, we can't do this. And then we ended up just doing, luckily for us, we have a few loyal listeners that will just pop on the podcast with us whenever we ask them.
Yeah.
So, but it's still a crapshoot, right? Like there's still times where I don't know 100% if they're going to be great. But we're definitely not at the place where we can be 100% picky.
Yeah.
Because we still want to book our dates, right? And luckily, in the last few months, we've had a lot of amazing guests that have worked out really well.
Yeah.
But again, we've had the ones where it's like, oh, this is not your thing. This is just, they either had a great story or it wasn't that. But again, the cool part is that it's just me and our whole format is me and Trey having a fun time.
Yeah.
So even in that situation, if they're not that great at it, they're still having a great time. We're still doing a quiz. Trey's still roasting me, and I'm still roasting Trey, and that's pretty much how we make it through the whole thing. And again, a lot of those people, even if they weren't good during the show, they're still friends, or they're still people that we thought that they did amazing stuff. That was why we even had them on the show.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
So who would that dream podcast guest be? So I'm gonna ask y'all to say it on the count of five, on the count of three. You got one? You got one, Trey, already? Okay.
I mean, I hope he says the same answer.
It has to be something really rare for both of y'all to say the exact same answer of
Okay.
anybody in the world. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe y'all are more in sync than I realize.
I mean,
I'm
there's,
trying to think.
there's the upper echelon, and there's somebody that we really want on the show. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's the celebrity podcast. And then there's the celebrity, but like, not as well known.
Right. Okay. So
He's putting pressure on me right now.
Let's do anybody in the world. Want to be in sync?
Yeah, because I know we've talked about this, but I cannot reference it.
Okay.
whatsoever.
Let's do anybody in the
Can't
world.
reference it?
So you're talking about two levels then. Like you're talking about the extreme level with anybody on planet Earth. And then you're talking about another one that's, I guess, realistic in grasp. Is that
Sure,
the idea?
yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. All right. Let's do anybody on planet Earth.
Ooh.
You got one? You already got one in your head?
Yeah.
Okay. Trey got one.
I feel like it's hard. What happens if like they're watching it and then I'm like I totally beef it? No, I'm just playing.
Wouldn't that be good?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's like the whole Taylor Swift and Travis thing.
Yeah,
you know
where he
what I'm
called
saying?
it out.
Yeah, you know.
I would say that's a hard one. Who would I really want on the show?
I guess this would be separate from us because this is, I mean, his world and mine. But.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you ready?
I'll make something.
All
up.
right. On the count of three. 3, 2, 1.
Mark Hamill.
Yes.
Who are you gonna say though?
Eminem, I guess.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be great.
yeah.
But Mark Hamill, I would take him over Eminem. I just love that idea.
And the reason I'm saying Mark Hamill's because, I mean,
Voiceover
one, he's
stuff?
he's a voice actor. Two, he's Luke Skywalker.
Of course.
Regardless of my opinions on 7, 8, and 9 or not, he played Luke Skywalker. And
Yeah.
I mean, in the Star Wars realm, I mean, I'd love to just talk about behind the scenes stuff where, I mean, getting started in voice acting, he already had his foot in the door with acting, and a lot of actors are voice actors. So that would just be an amazing podcast. I don't know.
That would be crazy. I'm still trying to think of who we'd say together. I definitely know we have somebody, and I cannot.
And are we talking about the realistic?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, come on.
It's somebody I know, isn't it? It's somebody that
they
I
have another podcast.
Okay, but
Oh, yeah,
wait. Okay, that's like cheating.
It was cheating.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
The McElroys.
Okay. And who's that?
They have like 8 podcasts, but they do this. So what?
They're the ones that do the stadium stuff? Or I guess a lot of people do that now.
Yeah, they're the ones that do the stadium.
I think they're the ones you told me about.
Yeah, they are. They're the ones that do the live action Dungeons and Dragons with their dad.
Real play.
You said that. You said that.
It's just recording them, and they do, the 3 of their brothers all play together alongside of their dad. It's just the coolest thing and experience in the world. So
yeah, and that was one of the first references we had when we started the podcast.
Yeah.
Was like, hey, have you heard this? And he was like, no. And then he listened to it and he was like, yes, please. This is amazing. And it's our kind of humor. And they're just doing things we like. Like, do you like,
Did you introduce them to me?
I did.
No.
I did.
Really?
Yes. I'm 100%
It's been so long, I guess.
Okay, so here's the question then. So then y'all have heard of Bobby Althoff and everything she's doing with the celebrity podcast.
Yes.
And she had, Drake on. And
the girl that's always got a resting face of just like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah. So then her story, at least one version of her story is she offered $300 to anybody on TikTok who could connect it with a celebrity guest, and somebody connected her to Drake. There's that version, there's the industry plan version, and maybe a few others.
Sure.
But with that concept in mind, what's the most amount of money y'all would come up with for dream guests 1 or 2? Again, y'all mentioned Eminem, Mark Hamill, and then it's the McElroys. Is that their last name?
McElroys, yeah.
Okay.
That's a hard one because it's like I don't have any disposable. I guess it would be our ECL money. So like if we were just like dreaming it up, I don't know. I mean, it's hard because I don't. I was just telling. We just got an email from somebody who was like, "How much do you charge to have guests on the show?"
Well,
and like I can't believe we're at a point where somebody would ask that, which is cool. Yeah. But we definitely don't charge anything.
Yeah.
But if you really want to be on the show for a VIP, we're available for it would be hard for me to spend more than $1,000.
More than $1,000.
That's a
I'm
lot,
very
but
frugal.
Yes.
The most I ever spent on anything was my $1,000 feature for Pigeon John, and that hurt very much. It was amazing, but it hurt. So
that's a funny flex.
Yeah.
Weird flex, but okay.
Okay. So 1,000. Trey?
I feel like 1,000's right at the ballpark. I mean, that's a lot of money, but then again, if that pushes us into a direction where we want to go as a podcast,
where all we had was people like her, that would be.
What would be? What would that like the return of investment for you paid 1,000? The McElroys came on, and then what would have to happen for you guys to go? That was worth it because it brought us X. What is that X?
I mean, constant revenue.
Yeah, if we were actually starting to make money on the channel. Like I was laughing. I was just talking about this. Like there's the Austin financial guy that does like he just blew up on TikTok, and I was listening. He was making $100,000 where he had been doing it for like a year, and he was doing that for like 3 years while we've been doing our podcast for 4 years. But now he makes way more than that because he blew up on TikTok. And but it's just that consistency is an interesting thing. So I mean, I think the moment we got a call from a celebrity wanting to be on the show, then that's when I think I would be like, that was worth the investment. Now, honestly, if any of those people came on for $1,000,
oh sure,
that would be worth the investment because we got a steep discount.
Yeah. So then. Would you ever put it out there then? Like, all right, $1,000 if you guys can connect us to a major celebrity.
Yeah.
And like, so again, let's say y'all put it out there and then they come back, maybe not with an A-lister, but a C-lister. Like, and how much do you go, hey, the 1,000 was for the A-list. You run me a C-list, which, yeah, it's still good, but it's no longer 1,000, it's $500 now.
Sure.
So then, or is there some kind of like a,
again, the one thing about our show is it's about me and Trey, right? So
Yeah.
like if somebody were to get on there, we're really paying for advertisement because they're seeing us beatbox and freestyle, seeing us be funny. And so it would be worth it. It's hard because it's like, how much would I be willing to do that? Would I be willing to do that tomorrow? Obviously not, because my wife would murder me. And yeah.
I have my own savings that I'm worried about that I will not put on the live stream right now.
But that's the fun part is like, and this is probably another question you have, but that's the one thing I have to keep when we're at ACL, because we meet these amazing people. I'm sitting there like, talking to like this major Grammy-winning band about what chicken sandwich they should choose. This is just what I do.
You can say it, I would assume, right?
Yeah, well, I was talking to, I'm going to mispronounce it.
Hosier.
So I was talking to Hosier like yesterday about what chicken sandwich they should get.
Yeah.
And so there's those things. What?
No, I was gonna say. I mean, I walked past the yeahs. I mean, as I was going to the bathroom in the artist lounge, I'm like, so okay, that's cool.
And, with these, we count as just the regular artist at ACL. So it's really cool, but it's having that mentality like, could we get them on the show if we asked? And we had like at least 4 guests that we got from last year.
Yeah.
That were like major DJs in the DJ circuit and those kind of things.
Yeah.
But never got like a super famous person in that. But again, it is that how much are you willing to try? How much are you willing to get embarrassed to make this happen? And that is a hard one, because it's like I want to do that, but I also don't want to be that guy that's just annoying and trying to clout chase. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And really the heart is I definitely want to be in a place where we have enough credibility to ask the people we want to be on the show, like to stay in the niche that we like. Where we can ask voiceover actors, we can ask anime people, we can ask what the people that would work with what we like to do. Like, that'd be so cool. Now, we love when we have a random yoga instructor or whatever the situation is. That's how it works.
And she did a little bit of everything, though. It wasn't just yoga.
I was in a wreck, and he like had to do the whole show himself,
which was fine. I mean, we had a great conversation.
So then, like, our with using the Facebook group and like that model. So there's a perspective probably where it's, if you do like something like that, you probably get. My angle is, that's probably like a low quality guest. Is was my thought. Not saying that's really, again, you guys don't have to acknowledge that because you don't want to disrespect any of your guests.
Sure.
But like, there's an element of like that blast post to get anybody, and then. But what my question is, are they boosting it to their audience where they're like, oh yeah, like we had. And maybe are you saying 100% of the people, or is it 50% of the people, or 25% for people get it from the Facebook group? Like they're purposefully pushing it to their audience, and y'all can see the impact of that, or it's like, it's just them, and then I don't know if they even have any audience once they're on. Like, so what's that like?
So it's like a 20%.
20% actually share it with their audience. And then, or maybe the other people do as well. Like the 80% do, but they just don't have anybody who responds to it.
Yeah.
And then,
or that I notice, right? Like I see that, like every once in a while, or I'll be like not paying attention, and I'll go check our Instagram, and we've been mentioned like 5 times by guests from like 6 months ago, and I just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
But and those are usually the people that have a really established podcast. Normally, they're the ones that are promoting their podcast are the ones that really do that. The ones that are just starting. They're the ones that look like they're just using it as, I just wanted to try to see what this felt like.
Yeah.
Which are fun. And then there's the ones that, like the actor last week, she made a little YouTube short for us, of us doing the interview and just saying how amazing of an experience it was for her.
Yeah.
And so that happens like 20% of the time. Like we do 4 people a month, right? Sometimes 5 or 6, matters how our days are going. Excuse me. And once a month or every other month, we'll get somebody actually share it and have their fans show up. Like we had this one a few months ago where they had like, a lot of the D&D podcast people we've had that where we had like just filled with all their people during the comments, which is fun on the live stream. And so
then the question then, so I hear that, maybe this is the outside perspective, maybe this is the business mind of me. I'm going, if 20% of the people actually share it with their audience, and you get it's a noticeable difference when 20%. is there any, and then you even use the qualification saying the qualifier of if they have their own pod that they're pushing, then they kind of get the ecosystem that you guys are in, and so they'll do what they would be normally doing for their own for you guys. Is there any reason with the finite amount of time that you guys have? Because over a year, 52 sounds like a whole lot, but then in reality, like if in your lifetime you only could have so many pods on, is there any reason y'all don't use that as a qualifier in qualifying people to be guests on your show?
Well, in that situation, that's a very good point you make. And I think that the truth is it's really me as the booker making time to do that. So the one thing about making big swings is that mean you get lots of rejections.
Yeah.
So you're spending an hour asking, 50 people to be on the show, and maybe one of them answers. And so the problem is lately, and this is where I've talked to Trey before, where it's like, I really need to step up the focus because I don't want to be in a place where we're just asking the 20%. I want the people that we want on the show. And, but I do like the idea of being booked out and not stressing about it last minute. Because when we first started, it was literally, I was finding the guest an hour before the show. And so I've really changed that perspective, but I keep on trying to get us in a better place where we can actually ask better, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so, yes, no, I see that, but it is more difficult when you're the only other employee of the podcast, right? Like you're the only other one, and then we're not really paying anybody, so it's just me and Trey, and so it's harder when you got other things to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So then, if I guess the problem that you would be solving in that situation is the problem of time, or what would incentivize someone who's not you two guys to potentially be the booker, so then there's like, again, potentially finding somebody who would be that interested to be able to spend X amount of time finding I guess we're calling it those 20% more qualified guests to be on the pod, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think again, it's refining the brand. I mean, one thing I've seen throughout the years, we've definitely when we change the season of the show, it's because we've refined it. We've we've changed the format, or we've made it better. And I think that at this point, we're in a place where we have a thing, and every time we have a guest, they go, "This is a thing that I like, and it's fun, and it's a thing." But I think that trying to have somebody else on that, somebody that also sees what we're doing and wants to make that happen. But I also think if they had a paycheck, they would do it. I think if I had a little extra money from it, I probably would focus more on it. But the problem is I'm also the one that's editing, doing all the micro videos and things like that. So it's difficult.
I think for me, I think genuinely we need to get a hard push on just letting people know we exist. And again, we've got the people coming in, like regardless of their upper echelon, lower echelon, just booking or just being a quality guest. I think getting the numbers of viewers out there and saying, hey, Flows4U actually exists. I do or do not want to watch the show. And then we get the people who do want to watch the show, and we keep boosting that. And honestly, we've talked about funding as far as just like literally Facebook marketing. And what I mean by that is, just paying a couple bucks a month, or even, a substantial amount a month to push and to get our show to be broadcasted across Facebook, because a lot of our viewers come from Facebook, but we are also on other media platforms. But getting our name out there, I feel, should be our top priority.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I feel like I'm like a duck, I'm just trying to keep the thing afloat, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I understand, especially when I'm talking to you, I always go, oh no. So it does take more phone calls, more time, more little pieces to get people to know it exists. And then it's like, but how can I make myself make those things happen? And that's the hard part, because I just can't figure out how to make all of those things happen from the time I have.
Right.
And that's hard.
And I imagine, like in my own head, at least the formula that's kind of creating is the easier it is to book your guests, the less quality the guests will typically be. The more difficult it would be to book the guests, the more quality the guests would typically be.
Yeah.
So that's just like it's fair.
And our best guests are the ones that I either fought for or we got lucky where we met them at like a conference, you know what I'm saying, or a thing. Like, you know, having speech, as I said. Like, we were to have a Grammy-winning artist on our thing because of a friendship I built years ago.
And has he done something, again, not to blast him, but has he done something recently? Again, Grammy is like, of course, a big deal. Has he made moves recently where him being on the pod was a big pop?
Yeah, well, yes. It is one of our most viewed TikToks, the one that we had him on. Now, yes, in the last 3 years, they've released 2 new albums with like straight brand new kind of production. And that actually became some of their most popular albums other than their main first one.
Yeah.
And so they've actually been popping in the last few years, and they consistently tour every single year. And so it did help with the views, but again, at this point that was like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And so and then the same idea, like the other people that I've gotten on that were friends that did me a favor. Now that's the other trick, is that friends doing you a favor also doesn't mean that you get the full thing, right? Like, you don't get it, the full team helping out. You get the, hey, I'm here, you know, which is great, but you're not getting the full promotion team sending it out to everybody, which is fine.
Yeah.
And again, we have a smaller podcast, so I don't expect that. I'm not trying to put in that situation, but that's the trick, is like, what could we do to get better and become a more, and as I watch other people do it, as I said, I was reading that one this week where it was like, oh no, he's just doing better. You've talked about this, doing better thumbnails. He's doing more focused things, and that's how he's getting eyes on his product. And it's like, we don't focus on YouTube as much as we could.
Yeah.
Or those kind of things.
Yeah. So let's segue. I still want to talk a little bit about the pod. So sponsors. So naturally, I think you could pull up YouTube videos and like everybody got some sponsors, and like the ones I see all the time are like ExpressVPN, Athletic Greens one, the Manscaped is another one. So like again the Viagra oriented ones. Sure. You know, like you have all these podcast sponsors. Athletic Greens seems to have a referral program in and of itself, because you see that, like you see it on like the Joe Rogan pod and a bunch of other pods who plug Athletic Greens. So, and it's simply using a referral code that they get back 15%. I think anybody gets that. So is that what's y'all's perspective about sponsorships?
Well, we've had like 2 or 3 sponsors throughout the years, but mainly those were sponsors that either gave us a product for free, as in doing something, or they gave us a website or things like that. We never had a fully paying sponsor. We've had, here's my thing, and then you talk about it, which has been cool. But yeah, no, I'm fine with doing MeUndies commercials. I have no problem with that.
I'm fine with whatever, as long as we're getting something.
Yeah. And that's the trick. Is
I'll go out there. I don't care.
That's the thing, is like, we're offering a product, right? Like at this point, it's 3 hours of our days on Mondays.
Yeah.
You know, in most situations, sometimes 2 hours. And
my money's gone at that point. I mean,
yeah. And that's the hard part, is like, we're offering this time. So it's like, yeah, at this point, it is like, it would be nice if there was some kind of financial reason to do this, other than just, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun to hang out with Trey. Like, literally, this is like the 4th time I've ever seen Trey in real life. Right?
Yes. I mean,
yeah.
2012 to 2016, I guess ACL 1 and ACL 2. I don't think there's any. Yeah,
that's all we've ever seen each other in real life.
Yeah.
Other than on the podcast where we've done it for 4 years.
And is there any sponsorship you guys would turn down?
Yeah. I mean, we try to be family friendly, so if you know, it's an adult oriented thing, then in most situations, especially Trey isn't married, there's things that like I'm like, I just don't want to have those kind of conversations if we don't have to.
Trey had an interesting facial response.
I genuinely don't know why he keeps trying to protect me because I'm almost 30 years old. So I'm like, I think Jason thinks I'm this little cute puppy that's not experienced life, and it's hilarious to me because we have conversations.
Trey doesn't know what sex is. Jason.
Yeah, no, never has to talk. Never, no, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's true, and I mean,
It's like my second dad here, folks.
I'm a dad, and I'm definitely overprotective in that situation, right?
Yeah.
And so no, he's right. But I was like, I was 30 trying to protect myself from those. If I didn't have to have those conversations, made my life easier. If I didn't have to have a conversation about,
This is true.
sex toys, you know what I'm saying? It just seemed like that doesn't seem encouraging to anybody, especially somebody that's, yeah. So, try not to do that. So,
Gotcha. All right. Now, so are you guys categorically then would you put it in the comedy podcast? Is it genre?
yeah, we say with comedy and music.
Okay, so then do you guys follow comedy pods as well?
Yes.
And if so, who do you guys follow? Or check
Joe
in?
Rogan, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, 1,000%. He's got quality people on there literally every show. I mean, now again, some of those topics may not be interesting to me, but at least he's got somebody on there. Man, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, obviously,
Ron Fudges is one of my favorite podcasts. He's also one of my favorite comedians.
Yeah.
But his is like about getting better, and which is cool. And so his is very funny to me. And also you go with the McElroys.
obviously the McElroys.
Yeah.
Their podcast was one of the inspirations of me even doing the podcast, where it was answering dumb questions. And they did that. They do this thing where they just answer questions but wrong.
Is it Mabim Bam?
Yeah.
My brother and me.
And that's what inspired me to even do a podcast.
Yeah.
With those guys. So those, but also lately I haven't been in a car as much, so I've definitely listened to a lot less podcast. Normally I'm working on other podcasts. Like right now I'm producing some podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm just listening to that.
Yeah. What else we got? So sponsorship, mentioned that one. What do you guys say to people after the pod experience? Like, so they appear on the pod, the pod's over, you guys disconnect, they get offline because you guys it's all virtual, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. So then it's offline. Is there a follow-up contact? Is there?
We need to figure out one thing we do that's hilarious that was part of our show that we literally do it every single episode is we always go, don't hang up. During the live stream, don't hang up. We'll talk to you afterwards.
Yeah.
Which I realize we should just not have to do that. But it's happened so many times. It's just automatic. We have to ask.
Well, it's lets our listeners know this is a real podcast and that we actually care about our guests that come on the show. But yeah, I feel as a professional standpoint, we should probably before don't actually leave. Don't hang up on us. And there's been some guests where they leave literally as the show ends. We're closing out. Oh, well, they're gone. Okay, cool. So anyway,
and that's but yeah, what we try to do is we just try to thank him. Except for Trey, he'll just tell him how terrible they were.
Definitely not.
And he'll be like, "Your voice was terrible. You have an uninteresting product." And I have to go, Trey, I know you're mad at me, but you cannot be mean to our guest.
To be honest, we get all that credentials out of the way in the mic check because I mean, if their Wi-Fi is acting up, or if for one they're on Wi-Fi, it's a little rough for a connection.
We'll normally say, "Hey, we just can't do it."
Yeah.
And then that's also, as I said, we'll do a sound check, but it is a last minute
they used to be on Wednesdays, but now
maybe we made a bad decision on getting this and we've done it. We've been like, yeah, we're just not going to have a guest today.
No.
And then we'll be like, have a good day. And it would be mainly because of the sound or just something that was obviously like, we just can't do this today.
Yeah.
But we always try to be thankful. And we do get that often where it's like, man, I just really liked being comfortable with y'all.
Yeah.
I appreciated that. And I like hearing that because that's the idea. Like me and Trey want you to feel like you're just hanging out with me and Trey. Well, that's what we want, right?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Trey's like, no, I mean, it's that. And a ton of our listeners, man, I really had fun. Like, we want you to be comfortable. We want you to have a fun time. Like, me and Jason poke fun at each other the entire time on the show, so it's it should be a comfortable space, like a family setting. Not that we have to be a family, but it's you should feel comfortable.
And we'll ask, well, like, hey, did you feel good about that? And they'll be like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And then there'll be other, and then it's like a lot of times they'll say, hey, this is my first podcast, and I really love doing it. And then one thing we always try to do is if somebody was an awesome guest, we always tell them that they were an awesome guest and that we want them on the show again.
Yep.
And we'll try to book them at that moment. Be like,
Yeah.
hey, how about 2 months from now? We really appreciate it. You had so much. And then there's times where we try to stay an hour, but there are times where we've definitely gone longer when it's
Almost
just somebody.
2.
We have this one guy who has his own comic book company and is a professor and wrote like 80 books. And it was like an hour and a half. It was like, dude, Jason, you need to stop. And I'm just like, he has so much to talk about. And we didn't even touch it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we'd love to do a part 2 with you, or we love those situations.
So then, is there any post push for them to share it with their people? Like, so I remember I was on a pod and as one of the guys, again, I'll tell you his name. You wouldn't recognize him at all. Should I say his name? It doesn't really matter. But the email he sent me post pod was like, oh, hey, this is when it's dropping. Here's that link. You press this button and it creates an automatic Twitter post. Hey, I was on the his whatever inspired something pod, and then so pretty much he creates a little bit of a media kit to make it as seamless and easy as possible for his guests to go and be able to share that. So it's kind of like a pre-draft. It's a draft that he has to fill out a few things that he sends to every guest, but the idea that for it to continue to grow and share with more people.
That sounds awesome, but we don't do that. As the guy that does all the promotion, as the guy that does all the editing, I failed and I should fire myself. We are working on a new way to do some better editing, to get better micro films like for TikTok, and we're still trying to figure out what that looks like, right? But again, I think that it's funny. It's like I'm the kind of person where I like just want to make it happen.
Yeah.
And now I've made it happen. But now it's like, as Trey said, now we need to have people know it's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm not just a little guy sitting in a sandbox throwing sand at people going, oh, look at my thing I did. And it's like, you actually have to put in work to make it happen. And that's when we talk to people, especially when they're starting a podcast. I tell them, this is not easy. Even to be consistent, it takes at least 10 hours of my week, every week, to make this podcast happen. Where I'm doing some kind of work, or I'm sending it to the thing, or I'm making something happen, or I'm asking people to be on the show, or I'm responding to them.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do that, then you won't even stay consistent. And that's not including trying to get people to know about the show.
Yeah.
And so having the follow-up thing's great. And I know we've had a lot of great guests that would definitely respond to that. And I think that's a really great thought process. And so what we will say is we are hiring interns if anybody wants to do that for us. It is available
for free.
That's how interns work.
Some interns get paid, but very low.
Well, if you've been listening to this podcast, we have no money to pay you. We can pay you in free wraps if you like.
But when we get famous, there might be some incentive there.
Yes.
So if somebody like came, let's say they were a savvy negotiator, but they're also like 18, 19, or even younger, 16, 17, 18, 19, they're like, all right, they're saying, hey, I want to make money. They're like, hey, I do need to make money for my time, but I'm willing to put a condition on it. Like, what do I got to do? Like, is there anything they can do where you're going, hey, like they passed this threshold of making money? Again, it might be, again, 400 TikToks and then whatever. I don't know.
Well, I think, I think if you found at least for the beginning, right? If you found a way for us to make money, then I would definitely be able to listen to you, right? Because I've tried to do the thing.
So you'd make somebody a guarantee. If somebody said, hey, like, I don't want to get paid until I help you cross a monetary threshold.
Yeah.
And then they're
if
like,
we're making this much a month, then if this is in that percentage, this is what I can do. So say you want this salary.
Yeah.
If you make this money and that's 10% of what we're making, or 50% of what we're making, then I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And again, my thought process has always been, Trey's taken care of, and then everything else, you know what I'm saying? It's just kind of how it works. Now, the truth is nobody's getting taken care of at this point. But it's important but yeah, so I would say, if you can pull off 25%, if you can pull off something for us, then we can do 25% of that, or 10% of that, or whatever the situation is. Yeah, no, especially somebody, and I think I've talked to you about that, where I've seen people do that, where they just made a thing happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, if you can make a thing happen, I'm definitely willing to pay you for it.
Yeah.
That's important. It's like, and in the past, I've been lucky enough to work with kids, younger, like, 18, 19-year-olds that were passionate, and then I just inspired them to do a thing, and they did something amazing for me.
Yeah.
And so that was cool, and it's like, that'd be cool to do that again.
Yeah. The other question I had was, you guys familiar with FuzzyTube?
No.
No? FuzzyTube? Fuzzy? No?
Oh yeah, dude. He just did the thing. He's making bad decisions.
FuzzyTube.
He's one of the OG YouTubers, and he had got into the IRL.
I should know him then.
Which is another topic. Yeah, like he was one step.
Give me something.
Bunch of viral content. One of the things was like he was like, "This is how girls feel with yoga pants." So he had put yoga pants on, and he's he's not like a big dude, but he's a thicker dude. So that he was like reaches for something in his trunk, and then he would record guys, checking him out, and then like the response happening afterward, right?
Oh my gosh.
So the reason I bring him up is because I've seen some of his content, even him describing what it took to become this rock star YouTuber in the earlier days of YouTube.
Sure.
And one of the things he said was one of his strategies was literally messaging every single person in his phone to subscribe to his channel. When I was like, you know what? Like, it's kind of crazy. Again, he ultimately grew it to millions, but he's like, I'm going to become a crazy human being in getting to this millions and millions of subscribers. He ultimately got like crazy organic reach, and he got much of the benefits of the early algorithm with YouTube. But it's something interesting to think about, like a rock star in the YouTube space did to achieve it, that sometimes I'll put myself in the category of, as a non-rock star in any space, that I wouldn't or haven't done, as far as going through every person in my contact and asking them to subscribe. Like there's an ego to overcome. There's something to overcome inside of me to go, oh wow, like why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
And then what I'm asking you guys is, have you guys done it? Most people haven't, but then why haven't you guys done something where it's like every person in the contact you ask to subscribe?
Well, it's funny you say that, because in the earlier days of me streaming and Flows4U, I did exactly that.
Yeah, there you go.
And then maybe I just need to do it again.
Yeah, and we have this lady who has 30,000 followers on TikTok, and she actually told me how she got there.
Oh yeah.
And we're on the stream, and I'm like, wait. And she's like, all I did is you just you find the people that are in the same category as you, so comedy, music. And so, like, I'll go to Harry Mack, right? And then you friend 30 of his followers.
Yeah.
And then go to another one, and then friend 30 of their followers, and keep on doing that for an hour. And do that every single day. And then you'll have the 1,000 followers you need in a month or 2 months. Because they're not famous, they'll follow you back.
Yeah.
And so you just need to get to 1,000. And I tell you, I've been doing that for weeks, and it's like I get like 2 or 3, but I don't do the hour. I probably do like 30 people, and then I do it again the next day. Yeah. But I need to do more. But that on its own is humbling, right? Because I'm just like, I'm just doing this thing, and all these people are not following me. They're just like, we don't care.
I feel like we could get a bot for that, but that's, I guess, money. So
no, I totally understand. I used to run bots for a living. I know how to do this. But again,
interesting flex. Okay.
Weird flex, but okay.
My flexes are pretty sad today. I apologize.
I used to run bots for a living. I see you in that visual, like this army of bots that you're controlling.
Yeah. Jason Riley is actually from the planet Cybertron. So.
No, that's when I would sell tickets back in the early 2000s. I ran a company's bots to buy tickets. So, yes, you can boo me. I apologize. But,
yeah. So why don't you explain why should they can boo you?
Well, because the reason, it's interesting, because the funniest part, so the reason why when you try to go on to Ticketmaster and buy tickets, there's a dude in a room that is in control of 1 million robots.
Oh, yeah.
That are signing into the same thing you're signing into and then buying all those tickets before you have a chance. And I was that guy.
Yeah.
And and it's like you're just using everybody's email address you have. You're just doing all these things.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it's a crazy idea. And now the craziest part about this, and one of my favorite things to know, is that Ticketmaster actually owns the company that actually pre-sells the tickets. So when I buy a ticket, I then would sell it, and I would pay this company, 20% of the sale to them for selling it for me. Well, that company was Ticketmaster. So Ticketmaster sells out all the tickets, and then they actually go to the guys that are reselling it and making more money from them because they own that company too.
Crazy world we live in.
And that's the reason why you have those catches things, because they don't want to stop scalpers and brokers, because if they did, then they wouldn't sell out every show. And if they don't sell out shows, then they don't make money. And that's why when you'll go to a show and you're like, I thought it was sold out. Oh no, half of those tickets are in brokers' hands.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I always tell my wife. She's always like, I want to go to this event. And I'm like, well, cool, just wait 3 hours to the event. They're going to drop all those tickets, and we'll get in I've gotten to WWE shows for $5, gotten $200 tickets for $5 because they bought them all, and then they needed to get rid of them, and they just wanted to make some kind of profit off what they had.
Yeah.
And again, they're selling one of those tickets for $1,500, so they already made back what they spent.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
And they would boo you because the price of the tickets are more expensive because of people, or companies like the one you were working for.
Yeah, there's the reason why we're in a place now where tickets are the prices they are.
Yeah.
The reason why you can go to Ticketmaster and buy a $500 ticket is because they can charge that and scalpers will buy it. Or scalpers won't buy it, and it's the only way for the actual person to listen to get a ticket. And so it's a combination of those things. But yeah, they would definitely boo me. But I mean, there was a time where I bought a ticket for $20.
Yeah.
And it was for a music group I liked, and they started selling out all over the country. And I got GAs, $20 GAs, and we were able to sell each one of those $20 GAs for $1,500. Every single one.
Maybe we should just stop the podcast and do that. I mean, I'm fine with that.
But
Sorry.
again, you're also spending. I mean, the thing about it is, with that budget, we were spending like $100,000. We were spending like so much money for the chance that it would work.
Yeah.
It's not always that's going to sell out. Like there were lots of times where I was like, oh, I'm going to do this, and then nobody bought them, and then the boss comes in, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just guessed. And hey, dude, I didn't even know how to do this last week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I only was in charge because the other guy quit, and I was the only guy that knew how to use a computer.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So this all came back from the question of software or bots, and of the idea of them doing what you were doing on TikTok as far as all that goes. So that's just potentially software that could do that.
Yeah. Oh, with AI these days, I mean, I've found that it's really helped my promotion. Like, just getting the bio and all that stuff about the new episode. It's been awesome using ChatGPT and not worried about how misspell. If anybody's my friend, they know I can't spell. And it's so nice to actually have a thing. So I bet actually I could probably find something that would do that for us anyways.
Yeah.
And it's like, even, I think I've told you about this, but yeah, even like now they have the AI bots that actually can cut your hour-long episode into little tiny YouTube shorts, and those kind of things, and it's crazy, but it's also like $100 a month and those kind of things.
Yeah.
So it's just about
Which,
money.
quite frankly, is not that much.
Well, you definitely can pay for it.
We might start having to do that.
Well, you said having to do that, and I was curious about one of the questions I wrote to ask you was about market saturation, right? And there's like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, so I'm looking at the podcasting landscape and going, dang, like all the comedians have pods. I'm like, okay, cool. The most funny people on the planet have pods. And then you go, all the athletes, all these athletes, all the NBA, NFL athletes, and probably beyond in sports that I don't even keep up with, they got pods. And then you have the actors, and all of them, the number of them having pods. So market saturation and the idea of getting somebody's attention and keeping someone's attention, not to mention all of the shows and the streaming options and the TV and live sports and all these things. So is longevity just pretty much built into y'all's equation? Hey, like we've already been doing this for free for this long. We're going to keep on rocking on. Like, in other words, if 2 people showed up to tune in to the live stream, then it wouldn't change anything? Or like, what's y'all's feeling about the market and it's seeming to be so saturated for people's attention?
Yeah. I mean, that's a hard one. I mean, me and Jaime have talked about this often. At some point, Trey is going to realize that he can use his talent somewhere else. And so there is a chance that we're going to do this forever. You know what I'm saying? For me, I'm like, as I've said before, this allows me to have 3 hours a week where I'm not with my kids. And I love my kids, but I get to stay home and hang out with them every day. But this is kind of my like check out, focus on something else situation. So for me, I'll do this junk until somebody takes my mic away. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter if nobody listens.
Yeah.
Now, it would be great if somebody...
Just like Kendrick Lamar at ACL.
But the thing I always say, the one thing I can say is, even though... Now, we've had over 10,000 downloads of the podcast, which is cool. But our live streams aren't very high. But almost every job I've gotten in the last 4 years have been because I have a podcast.
Yeah.
If somebody goes, I saw your podcast, can you do this? Or, hey, I saw your podcast, are you rapping here? I mean, our ACL gig, the ACL gig that I've got to do for 3 years, and he's got to do for 2 years now, is because of the podcast.
Yeah.
Because we literally freestyle all the time.
And I would say I got nothing but, since he said ACL, that's immediately come into my perspective is just I'm very grateful for the podcast in that sense, because ACL is probably one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. But getting back to your question with just like this market saturation and everything, is I've looked at it myself, and everyone and their sister has a podcast or is a music artist or is a DJ or is a streamer. And it's insane to get into anything, much less a podcast that people are trying to watch and be engaged to, because we have friends that come on our podcast. Some will watch the entire time. Some will watch for 30 minutes. Some will watch for, oh, yes, I'm here for the rapping and beatboxing section. And that's totally fine if you're here for it.
Yeah.
But getting that engagement, keeping people engaged and actually watching the entire show is very hard. So, yeah.
I mean, even the funny part is even like one of our guests that wasn't very good now has a way more popular podcast than we ever did. And it was like, wait, what?
That's very many people, though. I feel like that's a lot of guests that we have on our show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've had where they either blew up after it or something happened. It wasn't us, but it's interesting. But it's funny because I even think about like somebody that was not a very good guest, but they figured it out. And now they're like, they have like a following and they're making money on it. And I'm just like, how did that work out?
Algorithm.
But it is hard. I mean, yeah, I've told you this throughout the years. Anytime that I've ever been successful, it's because I was stupid. It's because I didn't care that there was 10 million people doing it too. Like when I got into Christian rap, I didn't know that I wouldn't make any money. I just did it. I just spent lots of time making it happen. Same thing, and it's like when I just didn't care about all of the other things happening is when they succeeded. And so it's like I hope that we at some point will refine the podcast enough for it to work. But I also know that it's just one of those things where it's like you just don't know.
Yeah, gotcha. And so Trey, you're not married.
I'm not.
And so are you dating or?
I am.
You're dating. So then not engaged.
No, not yet.
Okay, so not engaged. So then you've met your girlfriend's parents?
Yes, I have.
Do they know about your pod?
Man, I don't want to talk about this.
Okay, you don't have to.
There's a reason. I mean, they do.
Okay,
yes.
yeah. No, I was just wondering, like, because that's one cost to count that sometimes I didn't think about. Again, not related to your relationship, but in relationship to what we do online, is that not only do our audience sees what we do, but then our significant other sees what we do, and then their parents sees what we do. So anyway, it was just something I was curious about. I feel like Jason, how long you've been married? What, going on 11 years?
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years, but going on 11.
Yes.
Yeah. So at this point, again, everybody knows you got one, and it doesn't matter for you, like whoever sees your stuff.
Yeah. Well, in general, that's me. I'm like the kind of person I've always broadcasted my stuff everywhere, anyways. Because when you're doing music, you're always trying to get people to do it. I laugh because I think about like old freestyle YouTube videos that I did, and I was like, oh, these are terrible, but they're there. Or comedy bits that me and Kevin did, or those things, those exist, and it's interesting how it goes. But yeah, it's scary. I mean, especially the more we do it. Like if we have a thing, like I think a few weeks ago, I said something, and I was like, is somebody gonna come back and try to get me for that? You know what I'm saying? I think I pulled up a thing, and I was like, oh, I hope nobody comes back and goes like, Jason, you're doing this. and there have been episodes.
You said you told everybody you're going to vote for Trump again?
No, so here's another funny thing.
Actually, the reverse.
We actually had somebody that now is a convicted felon that was on our show.
But why are you saying it with a smile? So what's
I think it's wild. He's doing that because it's just wild.
No, the story is wild.
Okay.
Because it's just a terrible thing. But
We still haven't edited that off
and
our
I
show.
haven't, and that's the funny part is
like
that if
still
you
there.
watch the
His
intro,
face is there every
his
intro.
face is there every single week
I'm like, Jason, why is that still on our show?
because
man?
no one's paying me to change it. If you want to send me some cash and go make us a new intro,
I think that's why we don't have followers. They
have like felons on the show.
convicted felons on the show.
But it's like it's crazy because it's like, wow, I can't believe that actually happened. Like we're talking
Yeah.
to this person, and now they made a decision in their life. But yeah, it's especially now in society, it's definitely crazy if like you say something that offends somebody or something like that. It's like, oh no, I don't want to do that. But yeah, there are times I have definitely not slept a night after a podcast going, I don't think I made a good decision there. And if I did do something weird, I would definitely that my wife would get mad about it. I'd definitely go talk to her about it. But in most situations, we do stay in the comedy realm, so we always have at least that a little bit of defense. Like we were joking,
haha, just kidding, guys.
we were playing. I know
because the comedy pods do seem to get away with everything as far as like joking about anything and everything.
But it's comedy though. There's so like there's literally I think we talked who did we talk to recently? She's a comedian. Anyway.
Oh yeah, she was great. The one from New York.
Yes. And I asked her name's escaping me right now. I asked her like, what can you not talk about like when it comes to comedy? She's like you can make anything funny. And I've seen enough comics to know that because there's been some really dark topics that the entire crowd is busting a gut laughing over.
Right.
Because life can be humorous even in the darkest times. And I think we want to still be funny, but still keep it more or less family friendly.
Yeah.
People
Like
cuss
last
on our
week-
show, and we try
last
to
week
to
was
help
hilarious
them not do that. But
because the most sweetest lady, and this is the actress, she just kept on cursing, but she did so sweetly. You didn't even notice it was happening. I was like, "Oh, you should stop."
but no, there's no. I feel like there's no limit when it comes to comedy.
And when I posted it, I had to put explicit. The episode was explicit because of the amount of time she cursed.
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh,
But it's interesting because we've had those situations, and it's just so funny where it's like, yeah, you just don't know. I had a really good story and I totally forgot it now.
comedy.
Oh yeah, so
Hey, that was
This is
good.
why I'm
See,
here.
there we
This is why I'm
go.
here.
That's the next level.
we've had comics on the show where they talk about that, where it's like, oh yeah, so there's a guy that got a new job on SNL, and he got a job on SNL, but then somebody listened to his podcast and he was like super racist in it.
Oh, wow.
And he got fired like the next day.
Yeah.
And
That
so
would
there
do it.
is that stuff where it's like, what happens if I said something that at the time wasn't offensive, and then
Yeah.
it became offensive?
Oh, that's just called cancel culture. But
Yeah. It's like I said this thing, it's like Tropical Thunder. Like
Oh, my God, yeah.
the Robert Downey Jr. thing, where it's like, now that was offensive then, but it was on purpose. It was making fun of It was making fun of an actor that would do anything to be to get a grant, to get an Oscar.
Yeah.
But it's like now it's like totally you can't do that. And so people try to bring that up, like, oh, look what he did, and it's like, dude, that was 20 years ago. Calm down.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and Jamie Foxx even talked about how I think he's the only one that could do that because that was amazing. Like, it's just,
and this is before all the stuff blew up, before he really blew up with the Iron Man thing. So it's like it's just so funny how people can react. But it is helpful that we're a comedy show, but we're not the most hilarious people in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, speak for yourself, Jason.
Well, this is why I pay Trey the big bucks on the podcast, because he really
the beatboxer and the comic relief.
There are times where he's on the show, and I do regret that I tried to do the show without him, because I'm like, oh man, Trey really makes this show work.
and to that effect, like I want to be more involved with the show. I want to help Jason out more. I feel like, sometimes we're coming in at last second, and we can prep more. And I feel like when I come to the show, I can help out as much as I want, or as much as excuse me, let me rephrase that. When I come onto the show, I have a bit that I do, but I feel like I can put more into it, and I've been focusing more on the TikTok videos, and he's kind of showed me how to edit that. But honestly, like, there's so much more that I could probably pull off of, like, just Jason's workload and do myself. But I think there's so much more that we can do into the podcast that can make it even more successful and keep people engaged.
And that's the one thing I appreciate the most. Like, a good example is we came into ACL. And so when we go to ACL, one of the funnest part about having your own beatboxer is we literally can do a show for anybody at any point. And we've last year we got to do we did an Instagram post for an actual beard brand. Yeah. Which, thank you for loving our beards.
Can we say the brand? No?
We can say Gibbs.
Gibbs, yeah.
If you go on Instagram, you'll see us from last year doing a rap for them, and they give us some cool stuff.
We did it again this year.
But Trey, before we went going to the show, before we got to ACL, he had said, "Hey, Jason, I need you to practice your freestyle." And my feelings were hurt. I was like, bro, I'm a little professional freestyle rapper. I make money doing this.
He called me for some discipleship after that, just so you know. And I walked him through we did a role play where I was Trey and he was Jason about how that conversation would go with you.
Are you serious?
I'm 100%. Oh, no. I was under this desk putting some wires together as I was talking to him. I was, all right, what are you going to tell Trey?
And I think that, and then someone else, you rapped for someone else, and he was like,
yeah, the whole week. It was the whole week. I had like a whole week of just people saying I stunk. And I'm like, do you understand that people pay me to do this? Like, y'all are jerks. But then I realized that's the kind of thing. And when we first started the podcast, I was very bad about wanting to even let go of any of the things. But at this point, like I said, we were having that conversation, and it's like, no, like a good example is because he had that conversation with me, like almost every freestyle I did this weekend was like hot fire. Like it was, but it's because he was like,
is this true?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I had a great time.
He was like, Jason, that was good. And it's funny because even on the show, I know I've had a good day if Trey actually tells me my freestyle rap was good, because he doesn't always do that. Yeah. Sometimes they've been like, wow, Jason, that was amazing.
And I'm not going to like harp on Jason because, again, I can't freestyle. If I wanted to, maybe. But again, I'm not going to be a Harry Mack. I'm not going to be like this dude that is not going to slip up. With Jason, like I can't fill Jason's shoes because he has how many years of rapping? 25 years of experience of rapping. And as far as lyricism is concerned, he could probably pull out a word that I've never said before. Maybe. He might trip over it a little bit just because he's Jason.
There's a situation, yeah.
And it's okay. But like that's the thing is Jason can't beatbox, I can't rap. That's why we complete each other. So
and because of that conversation, because of that thing, it just made me realize I really do need to ask more of him. Because again, just this weekend, he made us better just by doing that. Just by that one little conversation we had 3 offers this weekend, either to help with the podcast or to get us to come to other places and do the booth. And that's, again, the professionalism that we show when we do this thing. And again, if he's thinking that way, it helps us work. So yeah, it has been.
It's not to hurt Jason in any way, shape, or form. It's to be better.
Yeah.
And I mean, Derek,
I want to be better too.
He tells me I'm terrible at everything all the time.
Well, you know what's funny? Which was after that conversation, I was like, oh, you know what? I should have reassured Jason about his skill because sometimes I'm like, oh, what's my role? If somebody tells you a problem, like, okay, sometimes we go to, hey, here's the solution, or what do you think? Or it's like kind of asking questions to help them figure out what's that solution. Oh, the solution is going back to Trey. Now, afterward, I was like, I could have told Jason how skilled he is, what he's done, and gone through his whole history of what I've seen him do, how I've seen him perform, and how people have praised him. He's got free burritos and all of this things that we have all this evidence that shows his skill. And I know I didn't hit that when we were interacting, but it was something I thought about afterward that I could have tapped into if, had I, again, I was, working some wires under the table or whatever. So.
You did a great job. It was enough for the whole thing to work and for me to not get Trey to punch me in the throat. So that was good. Because definitely that's the fun part, especially when that's a fun interaction, because we only spend 3 hours with each other and we're online. So if one's annoying the other one, we just leave early. Right. And so it's a fun interaction when we're actually together, because it's like, it's definitely a brother situation where it's like, we're definitely going to, we spent all my fault, like 2 hours looking for a ramen place.
I wasn't going to bring it up
on Friday. No. And I was just like
2 hours looking for a what?
A ramen place in Austin.
Oh, a ramen.
But this is like at 8, 9 o'clock at night when everyone is
closing
packed.
and about to close.
Yeah.
And it was just a terrible idea on my behalf. And Trey was trying to be encouraging, and then it just didn't go well. And so it was just like,
what you have to realize when it comes to riding with Jason is
I'm a terrible driver.
Well, not but that's, I'm not even going to bring that up. But sure, you're a terrible driver.
I'm fine with that.
But it's literally planning out where you're going to go. Okay, cool. Having a plan Z, because when we go to these 3 different ramen shops and they're booked to outside the door and we need food like now, I think he's like, I give up. I was like, well, Jason, there's 3 options.
But I don't really give up.
Go. He said, well, no, he doesn't. But it's like we go home, we eat Jack in the Box, or we literally find like another place. He's like, I'm not eating Jack in the Box. I'm like, bro, I'm out of options. Like, I just want food in my stomach. I don't care what it is at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Indeed. So then, like, what, the Google Maps wasn't working, or?
Oh, it worked.
We found the places, but they were like hour-long waits, and so we get there, and then it would be like if we would have just booked our table the first time, we probably would have been fine.
Yeah.
But it seemed like a long wait, and we did not realize we were getting into. And again, he's never done all this stuff in Austin, so he's only been there once before, and so I'm the one to do it, But
barely that, though, because, we were at your parents' place last time. It was 30 minutes away.
And then we're also staying at this new place, and so it was just a whole thing. But again, I knew I had failed at that point.
Yeah.
But there's also that pride where you're like, but I'm not going to say I failed. I definitely said sorry so many times to the point that Trey was like, don't you say sorry again.
I was like, bro, I've already forgot about it. I will get mad if you say sorry again.
But that's...
These comments are hilarious, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put them up there, so I guess I can read them. Y'all can read them. So
sure, yeah.
I can put them on the stream even too. So, all right, go ahead, Jason.
Well, so I did show some love to Polar Nights here at the beginning when I did say I love the show. It's a perfect evolution of beard growth. Which thank you for. Wait, is that? Oh yeah, you're like the next level, because I just got mine. That we did go to the Barbershop Authority at ACL, and they did totally hook up our hair.
Shout out to Gibbs.
Yep. Shout out to Gibbs. Shout out to our amazing hair cutters, which I definitely forgot all their names. And I'm terrible for that.
Mine was Lexi, so.
Oh. Yes.
All right, so you said Polar Nights for the beard growth, and then the other ones.
All Kyle Peppers.
And this is one of our favorite guests on our show and favorite followers. He always has something hilarious to say. Go for it, Trey.
He said, my goal is to get to 10,000 downloads myself. You guys are my goals. That you guys are my heroes as podcasters. And then he says, yeah, me as a guest host, I could not fill Trey's shoes. I appreciate that, brother.
Now, the funniest part about those 3 comments is that Kyle actually not only has a actual brand that he gets to do a podcast about, but just in the last few months, he actually now works for them. And so they pay him to do his podcast.
Come on. Let's go, Kyle.
And
we're missing something
now
here.
The funny part about Kyle is that I actually I actually listen to his podcast because he does the Mutant Football League podcast, and it's a game I enjoy. So I had listened to his podcast before.
Yeah.
And then when I asked for guest one day, he just was like, I want to be a guest on your show.
Yeah.
And then it was like, but I listened to your show. And, and the cool part was I was able to help him because he just started. And you know how I feel about that kind of stuff. And so it's just so fun to see a friend of ours like be able to pull something, be able to do something. He elevated his podcast to the point where they hired him, which is awesome. And again, he will come on and be a guest host wherever, and that's amazing.
I would say our two most consistent guests, or listeners are Jaime and Kyle. Kyle's the GOAT in my mind because he's been with us for a long time and he watches every show. I would say Jaime because he helped us. I'm just basically because wait. Did we started first, correct?
No, he started first.
He did?
He did the stream first.
Okay, so
we did the podcast before him, but he did
the video streaming. Okay, cool.
And then we started. I don't know if he inspired it, but I did start doing it about the same time.
I love Jaime. Jaime's another really good friend of mine. Never seen him in person either, but that's another one of my goals is to go visit him. But both of them have been amazing listeners and supporters of our show, and it's I'm so glad that we have them.
It's nice to have two people are going to comment during the thing, especially when you got those cooler guests and somebody they're going to say something funny. Yeah. And so it's always so great. And then Jaime is always hilarious because not only is he saying something funny, but he's always promoting.
Shameless plugging every chance he gets.
It's like, make sure you check out my episode. And it's
nice.
Like, bro.
Okay, let me change the topic and ask you guys about Israel. There's naturally, I know you guys don't touch political stuff very much.
We'll talk.
But different like NBA organization like the Miami Heat, the Dallas Mavericks have posted something about standing for Israel. So will you guys be having any kind of post on any of your platforms saying stand with Israel?
Well, I've said this before, our social media team sucks. And that guy needs to be fired. He is not focused on that right now. He is so focused on just becoming famous at ACL. He hasn't even put his Twitter up yet.
So I could create a post real quick and give it to you so you could just post it easily. If it's just a matter of the time for it. I'm just curious. Is it I'm not trying to make you have a stance on this. I'm just curious where perspective on I'm probably as apolitical as anybody. But every now and then hey, this is popping up on Twitter. Do you guys call it Twitter or you call it X?
Twitter's still Twitter. I don't know why it got changed.
I mean, you have to. I got a new phone, so I had to download X.
Yeah,
I was like, this is weird.
It's Twitter.
Yeah,
just Elon.
Just I couldn't look up Twitter. I had to. At least on my old phone, I could type in Twitter and still pull up X.
So I saw it on my timeline on X or Twitter, and I just saw it was interesting. I was like, so y'all could eventually respond to your own position on even if you would put that on your social media. But maybe we'll do a hypothetical. You're the owner, or maybe you're the advisor to the owner of the Miami Heat. And the marketing director comes to you and says, hey, I'm thinking we might, put stand with Israel on our social media team. And then maybe you're not an owner, maybe you're not the marketing director, maybe you're somebody else, You're just an advisor or somebody. And what's the perspective you give to is there pros and cons to putting, hey, we stand with Israel?
Well, I think it's with any of those things, right? Like with the Black Lives Matter or other situations that happen where everybody kind of focuses on it. There is that. Do you want to be connected to this organization? Are you that afraid of what the public will do? If you don't do it, like with Pride Month or those kind of things, there are so many things, especially in this social media world that we're in.
Yeah.
It's like you need a new thing to say you're standing for. Like if we were to actually look at all the people that do the stand for things, you probably see the same people doing all of them.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. So as a marketing person, I'd be like, so do we actually believe in this? Is this something that we actually want to support? And the problem is if we don't support it, our fans going to be like, why wouldn't you support it? You definitely believe in this.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because especially with Israel. Israel's a very political thing where it's like, some people believe that they shouldn't be there. Some believe that they should be there. There are other people that believe that they should be there, but not how they are. And there's so many stances. So then what you're doing is when you say, hey, I stand with Israel, then you're saying I stand with the belief that they exist, compared to other people that say, hey, they don't exist or they shouldn't exist. And so then you're just putting yourself in that place.
Yeah.
And so it's so much harder in that situation. So for the Miami Heat, the issue there is how many of the people in your fan base would be affected if you didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so in that situation, when you're a NBA team worrying about all as many views as you humanly can get, then I think you almost lean to social norms and to doing what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And so there's that part where it's like, oh, what do we do here?
So, what would somebody gain? Like, what would they gain from posting Stan? Like, is there a gain? I guess people from Israel are like, because and also there seems like, I don't know if on y'all's time as y'all seen it as much, but there seems to be a big emphasis on Jewish owned media and like there's like a, hey, they're like part of the Illuminati, like Jewish people and the Illuminati are very, very connected, and there's overlaps and all of this. But I was trying to even like fathom what would be a net benefit. I guess you're saying their fans seeing them support.
Yeah.
What a cause that they believe in.
Yeah, well, it's the same idea. Like, think about the Kanye stuff, right? Like, he went and said this thing, and then it not only changed his wealth, it changed the way people look at him just from one comment he made, and then it also made those businesses stop working with him. Now, there was a point where those businesses realized we still have to work with them because it's the only way the only way we're going to make money. But that was later in life or later in the cycle. But it's interesting how, in that situation, once he said that, then there was this whole, we stand with Jewish people. We believe that they're not what he said. We definitely don't believe we don't believe in anti-Semitics, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and that was definitely a big deal.
Yeah.
Now that's the interesting thing about all these things is that I've seen it before where people do that, where they go, I stand with this thing, but then people call them out going, well, but you do this, this, and this. How are you really standing for that? Well,
right.
Oh, you're hurting all of your employees. Or
Right.
You only have so many women that work here. You don't have any women that work for you, but you are saying that you believe that women should do this. And so it's so interesting.
So, yeah, I think you reminded me of a point that somebody had brought up, like in contrast to, is like people will attack LeBron James he'll support maybe like black initiatives in America, and then they'll say, well, what about the injustice in China or something, or like, you know, the factories and forced labor or child labor and all these things in China, but they'll say, oh, he doesn't touch those topics. And somebody was criticizing the concept of standing with Israel. Oh, like, y'all jump on the easy one to stand with in the middle of terrorism, but then all these other world issues where people are suffering, when it's unpopular or it's problematic to your cause, then you won't. So that's an interesting one to even like wrestle through.
So, and then there's also the opposite effects, right? There's that actually probably better for us if we just went totally negative and just got somebody to know that we existed.
Oh, well, I mean, I was going to say that because with that, you know, you put yourself on the block. I mean, let's think about it. How many more celebrities have been known from the backlash that from the crazy stuff that they've said, rather than the positive stuff that they've done? Because let's think about it. I mean, I don't know. There's so many I can name off the top of my head, but there's like Kanye, for example.
He's more famous now because of that situation.
But he's more famous now, but he probably is not making nearly as much as he used to be making. So the pros and cons of that is, yes, you're very famous, and quite frankly, maybe he'll pick something up because whatever. But I think like you were saying with LeBron James, like all these things he does or does not stand for, it's that you can't please everybody.
Yeah,
you're never going to be able to please everybody, and quite frankly, for our brand, we're not going to, just because we do or do not support something, like it's not going to make the masses rise up against whatever.
Yeah.
And so in my opinion, my voice doesn't really mean much unless it's in a social setting, because quite frankly, like if something's wrong, I'm going to talk about it.
Sure.
And again, like I said, there's pros and cons to everything, but I think for organizations like the NBA and stuff like that, why wouldn't you be for what everybody else is for, regardless of what it is?
If we're gonna be truthful, I haven't seen yours yet.
I started the show by saying that I haven't even been on anything. I mean, I'll scroll on the Twitter timeline and see what's happening.
Okay.
But I was gonna say something about the stand with Israel.
Sure.
What was it? I guess we'll read this while we're here talking about it. It's ultimately the post that I got from Twitter. It's same concept. So this is basketball journalist sacked over solidarity with Palestine tweet. Jackson Frank, the new Philadelphia 76ers beat writer for Philly Voice, is out of the job after tweeting in solidarity with Palestine in response to the team's statement about Israel. Mr. Frank is no longer employed by PhillyVoice.com as of today. PhillyVoice.com CEO Hal Donnelly told the Post in a statement, "We stand with everyone who is absolutely outraged by the senseless attacks in Israel, by the loss of innocent lives, and violence against civilians." So there's that one. Let me move us back here. But you said I did read in a marketing book that it described that if you take a stand on an issue, so there's people who are on the fence and people who take stands, right? And then the people who take stands are always going to do better in marketing than the people who stay on the fence. So they say at least by taking a stand, you'll at least acquire the admiration of people who are in that position. By staying in the middle, you actually don't get the benefit or the backlash potentially. But again, when you have very little reach, I'm not saying that's you guys, but in general, when you have little or minimal reach.
I can reach and touch you right now.
Anyway,
live stream punch.
When you have minimal reach, it does seem to make sense. Like you were saying, like as far as taking a stand, because in like having. And maybe even expressing your more controversial positions in things, especially in relative. So I've been thinking about stuff like all right, even like with the feminist movement, how much content have I created about like the Christian position on like what the scriptures have to say about it? I haven't done a whole lot, but there are things about even like the roles of marriage and what that looks like. What I've seen as problematic and things that are like again antithetical probably to a feminist perspective.
Right.
But anyway, I just wanted to.
Well, it's interesting because I think about like there's a fun article I read about the I think it's Canada's KFC rep for the marketing.
Yeah,
he tweeted out, "We have a brand new ad. I'm really excited about
KFC console."
And and it's a picture of black people at a table, and it says,
"Wow,
we can't live without our chicken," or something like that. And everybody lost their mind,
of course.
and he's just sitting there going, ha, ha, ha. Because what it was is he just showed one of the 10 billboards that are all different multicultural things.
Yeah.
And he just showed the one that was black. And so they were like, they're like, "Oh, you're evil." And he's like, "Yeah, thank you. You just gave us free promotion."
Yeah.
And people are going to see the billboards and they're just thinking that it's that one billboard everywhere.
Right.
And it's no, that's not even, that might even,
but that's
not
the
even
one thing that they saw.
Yeah.
So
So everybody's losing their mind. And he's just like, "Yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing this I did this on purpose."
Yeah.
And it was like, if it was a different picture, it wouldn't have been offensive, right? It was, but it was because it was that picture that it was offensive.
Yeah,
it was just like, wow, that's so smart.
And that's the thing is like, you're saying that he did that with all families of all cultures, right? So, but of course, that's the one that they saw. It's like the right
it's
thing
the one
you're
he
trying
promoted.
to do.
He put it on his Twitter, just that picture, and not all the other
well,
ones.
of course,
on
that was
purpose.
a really bad move. But
no,
yes,
but he did it for that reason. He
Of
didn't do
course.
it accidentally.
Yeah.
He did it knowing
That's
that it was
tough.
going to cause the thing, but then knowing that that you're only seeing one of the 10 pictures. And
Come
so it's
on.
like, I
we
got
know
you.
what he did.
Yeah. He's like, I didn't mess up. I just did that on purpose.
Yeah. Let me ask you about so different characters that have come up like in the influencer space. Do y'all know who Hezi God is?
No.
Basketball player.
Refresh us.
He's a basketball player. His basketball highlights come up on my timeline, especially on YouTube. But so like you have different people who have God in their title, right? It's like Hezi God or Charlemagne the God. And so you as Christians, as far as like referencing them, would y'all not reference the God part, or y'all just like say Charlemagne and not say the God?
Have you not seen my rap name, Scout the God?
Stop. Pump the brakes.
Didn't notice that?
I would. I mean, that's the name.
I am Scout Dust, so you could put a God behind it, and people are like, oh.
I mean, for me, it doesn't bother me because I know that there's only one true capital G-O-D.
Yeah.
But I mean, sure, I think it's very prideful, like base God, for example, right? It's regardless of what you're going for, regardless. I mean, you are saying that you have come to an upper echelon of existence when you put God lowercase or uppercase. You'd be really bold to put uppercase, but like you're saying that you are the whatever, the coup de grace, the creme de la creme of whatever it is. I think that's just super, just like, I don't know. I think it's disrespectful, obviously, to God. But
I remember when I'm gonna mess it up because ODB, when ODB changed his name to Big Baby Jesus.
Okay.
And this is back in and it was like, but yeah, or same thing with Yeezus.
Oh yeah,
those kind of things is like, it's interesting, but again, that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Like we do these things to shock people, and we've learned, and like as I look into TikTok stuff, like you'll see the percentages. Negativity in TikTok is almost like 80% chance of growth compared to positive. And like, some of my favorite creators will be like, if I just did one diss, like there's this guy I love that does Star Wars stuff, but he always does positive reviews and positive things. But if he were to diss it, he said he would exponentially grow his channel just because people love negative stuff.
Yeah.
And you'll see, he said, I've seen it before where I've done a test where I've just done one negative thing about the thing, and then it got 20 times more views than I ever got before. But I decided that's not me. That's not what I'm standing for character-wise. I'm not going to do it. But I do know it exists.
Yeah, yeah.
And
that's like at ACL, 100 parents saying, Jason, you're the best rapper I've ever heard, and then me coming up and saying, "Wow, Jason, you're trash." That erases all of those compliments, right? So
emotionally, yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like negative
also,
responses have, like you were saying,
but
it's
you
got
also
a bigger
have
response.
more clout than other people. But yeah, but somebody that doesn't know me could also do that. Just like that random guy was like, he used to be a rapper.
Yeah.
I'm at a barbecue thing. I do a freestyle, and he was like, that was okay freestyle.
I know. We went to volunteer in prison that one time. Like, why were they hating on you? They were like,
yeah.
Wait, I haven't heard this story.
I don't remember the story.
Interesting.
well, so I was involved with prison ministry, and one of the times I brought him, and then asked him to do his freestyle thing. And like in prison, at least in this class, there were a number of artists who rapped and did poetry and things of that nature. But like most places, like there is an admiration for what he does, whether it's at Chipotle or at church or whatever. There is a like. But there wasn't that same pop and awe.
Well, and here's the truth. If I'm going to be honest with myself,
here's the hot take.
The real truth is,
right here.
is in those situations, the audience is majority white.
Yeah,
and
right.
so to white people, I'm impressive. But to other people that freestyle all the time, it's not as impressive because they can do it too.
Yeah.
And then it's also a style thing. Like I used to lose freestyle battles like in Austin, I used to lose because I didn't do DJ Screw type raps. I didn't do H-Town stuff.
Yeah.
And no matter how good I was, it didn't matter because they didn't like what I sounded like. They liked I'm coming through situation.
Yeah.
They didn't want to hear my lyricism. And no matter how cool I did, it didn't matter. But yeah, and it's probably that same situation. It's like, it's less impressive when there's also that part. Like, why am I not the person doing that?
Yeah,
and you're going to get hate, especially, and that's exactly what was happening, right? Like that guy was like,
they hate me because they ain't.
That guy was like, I could do that too, but I'm like, you're not the one that thought about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the one that did it.
Yeah.
You didn't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what happens. And I can do that too. I remember they have this really cool show called Hip Hop Love Supreme, where it's a freestyle show that actually won Tony's. It was on Broadway and all this stuff. And they came to San Antonio, and somebody was like, "Are you going to go?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to go see these people do the thing that I'm good at doing and watch them make money.
Yeah.
But then I was like, I'm just gonna go, and then I loved it the whole time. But before I was like, I don't want to. No, I'm being a hater. But it was an awesome show because I just realized that I'm not gonna not be entertained.
So, are y'all familiar with little God theology? Back to the whole God conversation. The little God theology.
I try to move past it, and you just keep. No, I don't know.
No, I was just curious. It's not even. It's funny because there's what I'll see a concept come up in like in different mainstream churches, and it won't come up like in our church, our churches. I'm like, oh, interesting. I've never ever heard this talked about or addressed, but then I'll see it pop up on YouTube or something. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. So ultimately, it's about the passage when Jesus quotes the psalm that talks about the sons of God are gods, and he references that when they're accusing him. We could pull up the passage.
Let's do it.
Y'all want to,
Bible time.
Let's get it.
Let's see here. All right, so it's on the screen. It should be in chapter 8 or chapter 10 of the book of John. Let's see. This is where you entertain us, Jason, while I find it.
Well, here we go. Sitting here, I'm just trying to flow, looking at chair. Only if I see. This is why I'm terrible. This is why people say I stink.
Keep freaking going.
Now we're looking at the scripture says Derek, he goes down. Only if I see it, because I'm feeling it now. Not used to all this crips, vocals in fact. Only if I'm sitting here, yeah, I know I'm jacked. Up on the camera, only if I do it all. And Trey sitting with his bandana, y'all. And I'm getting texts from my wife like, hey, where are you? Only if I can't go down, and then I saw you. My son just wants to see his dad. He hadn't seen him in a week, and I know he's sad, but it's okay. Only if I'm feeling the time, I got a rap like this. We found the verse and oh my.
All right. Appreciate that.
No problem.
So cool.
All right. So we do got to put it up on the screen as well. So in John 10:31, it says, again, his Jewish opponents picked up stones to stone him. But Jesus said to them, I've shown you many good works from the Father. For which of these do you stone me? We're not stoning you for any good work, they replied, but for blasphemy, because you, a mere man, claim to be God. Jesus answered them, is it not written in your law, I have said you are gods? If he called them gods, which would be the lowercase g, to whom the word of God came and scripture cannot be set aside, what about the one whom the Father set apart as his very own and sent into the world? But it's just that concept of like a passage that I've never heard preached or even talked about. And not to say that it hasn't been in any one group, but this the idea that
this is the NIV.
Yeah.
Skipped over this completely. Apparently, jeez.
But people have taken this and like in some circles have made it like a motivational thing about us being gods. And again, like it's an interesting thought process. But from that angle, the whole Hezi God or Charlemagne the God, I'm like, oh, okay, like well, I can see how that could fit kind of in there. It's not as problematic as I initially would have thought.
Yeah, like when people call themselves kings or queens.
Yeah.
Due to scripture, which totally makes sense. But in this situation, it's interesting. And it's the reason why I've recently changed my name to Scout the God.
I mean, we're more, I feel like Saints is more scriptural. This is crazy. I'm sorry. This is, and it's probably I just glanced over it the last time I read this, but this is a little buck wild.
Yeah.
No one talks about this ever.
What's your automatic reaction to it when you see it, when you hear this?
When I first saw it?
Yeah.
When I first saw when I first heard about it, I'm like that's it. Like I hear stuff in mainstream Christianity and I'm going, oh, it's something else problematic. But then like when you actually look up the passage, hey, what passage are they even talking about? And then there's actually something that supports the concept. Like, oh, okay. They kind of, took this and ran with it. They made it into more than what it was. Like if somebody made it into an affirmation, like I am a god or something, I'm like,
it's a little much.
Yeah. I think you're going a little too far with it.
Because it's always in a negative context. I mean, no one's going to be like,
is this like me with Samson? Is this the same situation?
Yeah, that's
okay.
fair.
It's an inside joke, but I pretty much tell Trey, in joking, I tell Derek that I can answer any spiritual question using the story of Samson.
Any spiritual question.
Any question you have,
Interesting.
I can use the scriptures to answer the question.
I'm gonna come up with something.
Derek's definitely stumped me a few times.
All right. Okay. So where we at? All right. So back to again. It's 2024. So the election is around the corner. I'm not going to ask you who you're voting for, but you are a comedy pod, and as a comedy pod, do you think it's more entertaining for comedy if Trump was the president, or if Biden was the president, or somebody else?
Oh, that's so tough.
I felt like both of them are pretty darn entertaining when it comes to jokes. Now, again, I don't know if we do many political jokes in general, but we've had political guests. Like we had a guy that actually worked arm in arm with Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And, and that was a very fun conversation. Again, we always try to have a open, like we want to hear what you're saying. We might not agree with what you're saying. In any situation, like again, when Trey was talking to the lady about like most of her stuff was about women's body parts, and Trey has to be like, yeah, I totally understand, but he has no idea what that is because he doesn't have those parts. The
little puppy thing. He acts like I've never taken an anatomy class before.
That's not what I meant by that,
Dude.
I'm sorry, puppy.
Here's the thing: Jason probably didn't even watch the show. If I didn't know, I'd ask her, and she told me.
I didn't. I cut out
Dang it.
pieces of it.
Dang it!
I didn't watch the whole thing.
I am a child.
No.
All right. So then, so you don't think one provides more comedy than the other?
You know who would be very
Biden.
hysterical is if DeSantis somehow won, because that guy seems to do whatever he wants, and so that would be a little scary.
Do y'all like you watch like the debates or debate highlights or anything like that?
Unless there was something hysterical. Every once in a while, if there was a point that I wanted to learn, because you know me in general, I'm a researcher by heart, and so if there's something that like affects me, like a good example is like right now there is from COVID when they gave everybody money, they actually said, all right, if you make more than $600, you have to get a tax. You have to get a $399 tax thing, and pay taxes on whatever you make, which it used to be under $20,000. And so anytime somebody's talking about that, then I'll definitely go and listen to it and learn. And then I'll find other bits that I'm like, oh, that's funny, or that was cool. So sometimes I'll listen to them. Yeah. Now with Trump back when that was happening, yes, definitely I was obviously knowing them because there were so many good
so
quotes.
Good.
So many good.
What's the age difference between Biden and Trump?
I don't even know.
I mean, that'd be a good question because the reason
it's not
I'm asking
that
this,
far for me.
Well, the reason I'm asking that is because I feel like there should be a cutoff. Because when it comes to Biden and Trump can still have a complete sentence, and when it comes to Biden, can explain America as one word.
Right.
I'm sorry, but that was just the funniest bit ever.
Well, the interesting thing is and again, not even being in the political world, or even like reading a whole lot about it, but when the stuff comes up with Biden, I just feel sad. You know, I feel sorry for him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's bad.
And then I feel like Trump is like purposefully funny and purposefully entertaining. So like even not knowing anything about their policy, I'm going, oh, like he provides plenty of, is it fodder is the right word?
Yeah.
A fodder for what's the end of the phrase?
Fodder for the masses.
There you go, fodder for the masses. Yeah.
So Trump is 77 and Biden's 80. For your information.
I would have guessed that, yeah.
Well, Biden did not age well.
No, but I mean, again, Trump has probably had way more work done than Biden has.
Sure. I mean, he's got orange skin, so.
Well, they were contrasting Biden with Vince McMahon.
That mustache. No. Have you seen his mustache,
Vince?
Yeah. So when he came back, so he left the company because of a decisions he made. But then when they were about to get bought by the UFC. You should really pull this up. It's worth you pulling up the picture.
Okay, yeah, pull it.
And especially the story. And so because they went back to the UFC was going to buy the WWE, and so he comes back in a media thing. Nobody's seen him in months, and he comes back with his mustache. He looks like the evil dude. There it is.
Oh,
he looks like the evil
is this real?
It is. It's 100% real. And he comes back with this mustache like he's like an evil oil baron or a
Yeah,
railroad
with dyed
dude.
hair too.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And yeah, it's like, wow, bro. Like you were just gonna.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. So he comes back like that. See, there he goes. People making fun of it. But yeah, it's so funny.
How old is Vince McMahon?
I'm looking.
He's up there.
He's in that age range. Like him and Trump are friends.
But I think that's what it would come down to is like, and again, I mean, Biden, like, even Kamala Harris, how do you pronounce her name?
Yeah, good question.
Okay, anyway, so for that, I think like she was laughing. Like your vice president
78
is laughing to the bits that are going on. It's just tough because it's like we all know that. I mean, I don't know. I feel like there should be an age cutoff, honestly, regardless of who you are and who you're. If you're running for president.
Yeah.
Speaking of president, the church, the Mission Point Christian Church needs a new leader. And why are you making that face?
Listening.
Yo, what?
Keep on going.
Well,
Yo,
the leader and his wife, they're retiring. Mike and Amber G. Tyler. Do you know about this?
No.
So like, they have I would say ICFC celebrity status. So like,
Sure.
the news hasn't spread to. If you're from Kentucky,
Yeah.
what city?
LCOC or Louisville.
And how big is the church in Louisville?
Not even 200, but we used to be.
Okay, not even 200. Okay, so okay, but I don't even know if they made like a
there's
Disciples
no-
Today like
there's no,
article or-
video
Yeah,
update.
we get Cadogo and
But
stuff.
did you know that they're retiring?
I do now.
Yeah. So the answer is no. And that wasn't like a big.
Okay.
Because we produce they produce Cadogo, so they're not going to just put together
I mean,
a bit for that.
I would assume I would hope they would. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we're stepping down. We love you guys. Boom.
I mean, what do you do with that? Like, especially when you own the company. Like, I'm just going to do a video, just tell people how awesome I was. and that
This is how many years of service
you should
we have.
appreciate me. It's like if I went, hey guys.
One day you could look like us. I'm just kidding.
So what's your question?
So are you recommending anybody for the role? Are you applying for the job?
I mean, the only person that I think would be available that would be worth it is Derek. Obviously.
Oh, there you go.
Derek who?
Derek. I don't remember his last name. He's kidding me here because I can't say his last name. Derek Daniel Guadalajara.
Okay.
Oh, you said it. Good job.
So it's not his last name.
So here's the question: Is Kip McKean going to recruit Mike Tolliver to his church in the middle of this?
She just did that right now. I can't. What
is wrong with you?
I can't believe you just Voldemorted that whole thing. That you brought the name that should not be said in this podcast.
Speaking of Kip,
And on that note, I got a
Vince
message
McMahon.
from my wife that I have to go see my son. So we're gonna go.
Oh,
And I'm
it's so
Trey's
good.
ride.
It's so good. That's so good. I'll stay here if you'll let me.
All right.
That's hilarious.
Let me see if I have anything else. So you got a rap?
I mean, I always rap.
Jason, just do the bit we normally do. What have we been talking about?
The last thing I wanted to ask you is
Oh no, that's not what we're saying. Oh, we have to go. Yeah, I do have to go in a little bit.
Yeah.
Saying rap is it like
yeah, wrap it up. All right.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, no, I know that's our bit.
I was like, you do the bit.
Well, I feel like you got the rap in earlier, right?
yeah,
So-
we did the rap
so-
while you were stalling. While I was stalling for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So last thing I'll ask you guys about is so your comedy pod. You know, have you guys seen all the masculine content? Probably is like peak right now. Y'all see that on your timeline or not?
Like Andrew, what's his name?
Andrew Tate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Among others, but for sure. So the question is, what masculine rating 1 out of 10 do you give yourself? What goes into that rating? And if you were to, whatever your rating is, to go 1 point higher, what would it take? So I give you those questions again. 1 out of 10, 1 being the least manly. Is there a caricature we want to give to a 1? Like from a
Yeah, sure. Please give me this because
go ahead.
Go for it.
I was thinking like Milhouse from The Simpsons.
Okay.
Is
And
there
then
somebody
who's
else?
the most manliest person?
Is it-
Homer Sanders.
Like, are you saying manliness?
Joe Rogan? Is there anybody like
Arnold
who would be
Schwarzenegger?
who would be above Joe Rogan?
Arnold Schwarzenegger? Is that
Would
manly?
you put him above?
Like, oh, what are you saying? Like,
Right,
masculine? Are you mean like just guys that I looked up to that was the opposite, like Hulk Hogan?
It could be subjective as far as what goes in your rating might be again.
Yeah.
So we're talking about who's your 1, who's your 10.
Or is it who's the meanest women situation?
Oh my gosh.
Because if we're going to that rating, I'm like a 1. I'm married. If I'm mean to women, I'm not going to get to eat or have a place to live.
Who's the most mean to women, not the meanest women?
Oh, I heard that. I heard
Wow,
that.
guys.
It's like, so wait, are we getting into?
Time to bash women. I hope you enjoyed last week's podcast. It's the last one we'll ever do.
Okay, so who's your maybe it's who's your 1, who's your 10, and then and where do you rate yourself? So is your 10 Arnold Schwarzenegger?
No, I'm just thinking of like, I don't know.
I mean, I would put him up there because I would say he was peak. I mean,
Sylvester Stallone is one like not Rambo. Rocky. Rocky to me is like a manly man.
Okay.
But then he's also
do they
a
have
good.
to be real?
He's also
No, they
a
have
good
to be
example
real.
of the kind of man
Phenomenal.
that I like because like not only is he a man, but he also cares about emotions and his lady and he cared about those things.
I would say physique Tarzan from Disney's Tarzan. I mean, he's swinging from vines. Like, you know how much upper body strength
All
you
right.
have to have?
So,
It's true.
so we got a few characters up in that 10. Okay, who's a few ones?
Of not manly men.
Oh man, Cartman. From South Park.
I don't know.
One, he's still a kid, but
That was not on my radar.
Again, my opinion is if somebody is terrible to women, and that's a bad man to me. Like that's not not taking care of the other sex is dumb. Like so, like an Andrew Tate situation would be maybe a 1 to me.
Ooh, hot
Because
take.
just like that opinion, I just don't agree with that opinion.
Yeah.
And it's like women shouldn't be treated that way. I grew up with not a single mom, but I grew up with my mom all around.
Yeah.
And so it's like, nah, I don't think so. So that's what I would say.
Okay.
Andrew Tate is my number 1.
will be 1. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy.
Not even though he like also promotes protecting and being physically fit to protect. So like in other words, like nobody's completely devoid of masculine value. Would be my take on him.
Sure.
So he couldn't be a 1 if he embraces some things
You're
that I
right.
consider related to.
And he's in
I would say the
good
same
shape.
thing. I would say the same thing with
All
that.
right, 3.
Jeez.
No, I'm just being funny.
Come on, man.
Okay,
You're
now-
right. I didn't consider that. I was just thinking about like the negative effects of the way that he goes.
Yeah.
But not the positives of it, which can be positive. I see that. So, but I don't know who would be like the worst example of a man.
I would say the best. I'm trying to think of who it is. He's ripped and he's on he's YouTube all the time.
Rock?
He's talking about like bettering yourself, getting into the gym.
It's your dude, Hazagi.
Maybe what? Golly, man.
Oh,
I'm
we're
really-
getting all kinds of comments right now.
I'm really struggling to pull up his name right now because he's always in the gym. He makes some jokes here and there, but he's more serious than anything.
How does he look?
I mean, he's ripped. He's just
But
shredded.
his face.
He's a man. He's a manly man.
Does he have a full beard?
He's chiseled. And it's a little bit of
A
facial
bald
hair.
or does he have hair?
He has hair.
Alex Hormozy?
Let me look him up real quick.
Agassi?
Alex, what is his last name?
Hormozy.
Oh, we should have looked in the comments. We're getting all the ages of the people.
No, but he is a man. That's a man.
Okay.
Gosh, man.
The
Anyway,
whole point was to rate yourself. All right.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you have
so-
you have your 1s, you have your 10s. What do you rate yourself, and what would it take for you to be 1 rating higher on the masculine in your own masculine scale?
I'd give myself a 6. And I think that's my own emotions that put me in that place because I don't have like the job that pays for all the stuff in the house.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so I think that's what it would take for me to move up a point was to make more money than my wife. So then
Make more money. Okay, that's just very specific. Yeah.
yeah, and that would probably be the thing that would make me feel like I'm trying. Because I feel like caring about emotions, worrying about those things, taking care of my kids, all those things are things that I really do try my hardest to do
Yeah.
and put myself in that place. But there is that state of mind, that manly state of mind, like you should be the full provider. But I think that people do miss that point. Like, yeah, you're the financial provider, but are you the emotional provider?
Yeah.
Like, I grew up without a dad, with my dad being in my life. I missed out. Like, I was,
Yeah.
when Trey talks about his dad, I'm like, oh, I wish I had somebody that invested in me. And luckily for me, I've had great friends that have. And so, but I think you miss the opportunity when you're like, oh, I'm only doing this. And how many times have I had that conversation with manly men that make tons of money? They go, I wish I spent the time you get to spend with your kids. I wish I spent a few more hours a day with my young kids before they graduated high school.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's good. But I still forget that because I don't make enough money.
Yeah. Yeah. Real.
When I get his name, I'll send it to you. But
Derek's gonna have to go live randomly that day and just say the name.
I'm just gonna send it to him because he's a cool dude. But he talks a lot about positivity and stuff and just working out in general. But I don't know what I would rate myself. It's tough because I always want to be better, and I'm actually the biggest I've been in my entire life.
Yeah.
So I put myself at a 5. And that's a rough estimate because I really want to get into shape, and I know I need to lose weight, and I know I should be eating healthier. And I used to be on a health plan, and I mean, I'm literally, like I said, the biggest I've ever been. So as far as like masculinity is concerned, sure. I mean, I do a lot of hard work all day.
Yeah.
I'm pushing a pneumatic drill and holding a T-bar or lifting a very heavy plane tire or doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Very manly.
and as far as like anger's concerned, sure. I mean, like there's that testosterone buildup and stuff, but I mean, as far as protecting and taking care of people, I would put myself very high on the list. But overall, I don't want to put myself very high.
Yeah, no, I hear that. That's good insight. I appreciate you guys being real about it.
Hey, what would you give yourself?
There you go.
Good question. What would I give myself?
I'd give you a high score.
Self-analysis. I think so. Naturally, I think it's weird to give myself a higher rating than you guys gave yourselves.
No, it's your own personal thing.
I would give you a higher rating than me, but that's
okay.
All
right. So if it was me, I would probably say, again, has nothing to do with you guys. Has to do with myself.
My rating's higher than y'all's combined.
It's like a 9. It's like a 9.9 actually.
No. I think about 8, and I think what is. Yes, you over here.
We gotta get those comments here in a second.
You got a 0.5 higher than Jay. Yeah, and probably about an 8. I think, fitness I think is relevant. I think about that willingness to die for my spouse or my family. Stepping up to serve them. I think is relevant. I think about I think what's missing from the equation. Maybe like. Knowing a little bit more about like fighting skills, maybe I think would be relevant.
I would love that.
Yeah.
See,
I think
that's the problem with if y'all both know this, I really am confident in myself. And so I probably believe that I have way better fighting skills than I actually do. But I've watched enough wrestling to feel like I can do this.
Oh my gosh.
Here you go, somebody broke in, give him a stunner.
I'm just doing it. Give him the chair. So
Jason Riley slithered.
Now I know I could tackle the crud out of somebody for the years of playing football, but I'm not sure.
Spear like Goldberg.
There's a part I would try a drop kick and just miss or just fall to the ground.
Jason Riley doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, or I would just
Not
stall
the guy
out.
who want to tick off.
Yeah, there's definitely that part of me that's like, I'm that guy.
Well, you know what's funny about the idea of it is I ask myself about my personal fighting skills, but then also about the fighting skills of my circle. And I go, people who I can call in for a situation is also relevant. I go, like there's a number of people I feel like that are in my circle that would step up.
I know we'd call
and
the
be in
same
there.
person.
Who'd you call?
Gilbert.
All day. Kyle just put a comment in here. I don't know what the last words are. It says "it's" and then there's blank space. I don't know.
It's John Cena.
No, you see that?
You can't see that.
I can't see that.
Yeah, we can't see that.
Oh wait, what can't you see? Oh, I get it.
Yes,
Wait,
we're funny. High five.
Wait, the name is the same as the person?
What name?
Okay. All right.
Fun.
So yeah, that's perspective. All right. Last question of the evening is: are you dressing up for Halloween? And what are you gonna be?
Yeah. So here we go.
It's gonna be a dad.
Here's me getting canceled. My kids love
Jesus.
my kids love Halloween, so obviously I have to dress up
As Jack Black.
you know.
Oh, no.
Well, I'm gonna be my favorite human being. So I'm gonna be Derek. I'm gonna wear the hat. I'm gonna shave my head. I'm gonna I don't have to shave my beard that much. So
Pretty sure you got to look Latino. So
you know what? One time in Spanish class, when
boy.
I was a junior, somebody walked up to me and said, "We're the only two Hispanic people in here that don't know Spanish." And I'll keep that. I'll keep that in my heart forever. So one person thought I was Hispanic, and I'll take it.
apparently I'm Middle Eastern passing.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, no, I've had some pretty sweet costumes. Do you remember when I was
I'm scared now.
when I was a cardboard mecha? That was fun.
Oh, that's what's up.
And then there was the time I was Mario. I've had some pretty sweet.
Wait, you're not Mario?
Wait, so who are you gonna be?
I'm trying to fade back to life when I didn't have to think of that. Now I have a very busy month, so
Now who are you gonna be?
I'm going to be Vince McMahon.
Are you?
No, that means I have to shave off my beard. I have to choose somebody that has a beard.
So who are you gonna be?
I'll be what's his name from Walking Dead?
Daryl?
Yes.
Daryl?
I don't know. No, I'll be the Mandalorian. I can just wear a
You're
helmet.
the Dad DeLorean.
the Dadalorian.
Does he have a mask?
Yes.
Yes, he has a helmet.
He's got everything.
No, I do not know. And honestly, again, if you've ever met me, I do everything off the cusp. So I won't know until the day of when somebody's like, we need Halloween outfits. And then I'm like, let's go to Goodwill and figure it out. And the next thing I know, I am the people eating monster from Rocky Horror. Wait, wrong movie. Rocky Horror Picture Show. Wrong movie. I forget what it was. Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh.
So and then in my head, it's the most beautifully crafted thing in the world, but really it's just like a green piece of felt with a red piece of felt on a sock, and it's just like this. But in my head, it looked amazing.
Yeah.
So the problem with the problem with my own confidence is I believe I'm good at everything, and I am not.
Well, my answer isn't nearly as complicated as whatever that was, but I actually called my girlfriend today, and apparently she's decided for us. So I wanted to talk about it because I love getting dressed up for like Halloween and stuff, and just like, I don't know, going all out and stuff like that. But she is a cowgirl, and I was like, man, that's okay. So it's like, I don't want to be a cowboy. I'm a zombie cowboy. So we're gonna do a couples thing, and we'll figure out something with that.
Are you?
Well, I have cowboy gear that I could always go to.
That's just you normally. You can't be yourself. That's like me dressing up as a rapper.
But the other thing that I have would be...
Which no way we get. They'd be like, what are you dressed up as? I'm a rapper.
Well, my niece had a... What was that cartoon movie about...
Toy Story?
A Spanish-speaking cartoon movie from Disney.
Encanto?
Is it the other one?
It's in
The boy. Coco. So she had a Coco party. Coco party? Yeah, and
There's Cocoa Pebbles
my
everywhere.
face was painted, and I had a cowboy hat, and I was kind of like one of the people from the realm of the
You kind
dead.
of look like
Dia
those guys.
de
You
la-
got that skin.
Dia de los Muertos.
You look like a little skeleton man. You look like his grandpa.
I like what they did with that whole world when it was, neon, like black light in
Yeah, it's
nature. That
beautiful.
was like super sick.
Yeah.
That's
I've
because Trey
seen-
walks around with a black light everywhere he goes.
I would love to. No, I actually have a funny story about Coco. We watched it 3 years in a row in the teen ministry.
Yeah.
And I was helping lead at the time. I was just one of the team leaders. And
Nice flex.
anyway,
Wow. He's been hating my flexes, and you got a good one.
so
I love the team ministry too, jerk.
the team leader at that time, like I guess the ministry leader at that time, there we go, was he wanted to do Coco, and was like, yeah, sure. And then like the next year we did the exact same one for Halloween. This is a Halloween event.
Yeah.
And we're like, this is the Day of the Dead. First off, like the first one was fine. We watched Coco. I was like, oh, that's a pretty good movie. Second year in a row, we watched it. I'm like, why are we watching this? There's so many other movies. no one could pick, and so he picked for them. I'm like, this is your fault. I'm pointing at the teens. I'm like, this is now an inside joke because we watched this movie 2 years in a row on the same day. Like, what? But anyway.
Fair.
All right. How do people find your pod? How do people find your stream? How do people figure out who you are and be raging fans of yours?
Well,
your chance to plug.
Oh, should we just do the normal bit that we do? All
Yeah.
right. So you're going to want to go to flows4u.com, an amazing website. If you're looking for a new website, make sure you go to nomadweb.design. That's a bit that we do every week. But go to flows4u.com. You can find our bios. You can find all the episodes that we do. Then you can go over to YouTube and go Flows, the number 4, the letter U. Please subscribe and like. We have all of our shows on there, and we have a bunch of shorts and things like that. We even have Trey's shorts on sale on eBay. So please go over there and check those out.
Hey, represent.
You also can see us on Twitch at Flows, the number 4, the letter U. And we're on all the social medias. But again, as I told you, we just fired our social media guy because he's terrible. So we'll see what happens with that. But make sure you go to Flows, the number 4, the letter U, everywhere you go. And am I forgetting anything, Trey?
We would love to have you guys on the show. This has been an amazing experience. And if you guys would like to sesh with us, please follow us on all of our social media outlooks. You can go on to flows4u.com and you can message us, or you can just find us on Facebook.
They want to have you if you're a top 20%er, like we discussed, not if you're an 80%er. Just so everybody knows.
Yeah, if you're trash, we'll
will you have anybody? If you don't have anybody who would watch your live stream, they don't want you.
and if you're loving the production value here, just know that ours is even better.
Oh my gosh.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, fellas. Appreciate you guys being on. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.